All right, the Pistons have the number 5 pick in the NBA draft. We were disappointed,
Underwhelmed.
intrigued, kind of like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. So, Craig, your initial reactions when you saw that we were picking 5th.
Yeah, I think the initial reactions were we were live. And it was one of those things where you talked about it. It's like, how much fun would it be if we got the first pick or the second pick and we're all just waiting and we're talking over the commercial break? We're all excited. And then we got fifth and went to commercial. And my initial reaction was we had talked beforehand. As long as we're in the top five, I still think we can get a future star.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really firmly believe that. And even with 6 or 7, but then the board really has to fall our way. I think there are 5 or 6 really good players in this draft. And so I'm not terribly upset. I really wanted a top 2 pick,
Mm-hmm.
but if it wasn't a top 2 pick, 5 is almost as good as 3 in my opinion. I just absolutely got a text. So
And I think, yeah, you said it on our live is like what I really wanted, if I'm not being honest about what
mhm.
I really want is that 1-2 punch that we just can now win with, know that we're going to go to the playoff type
Yep.
player, like go to the playoffs. So in order to do that, we had to be in the top 2 or
Yes.
3. And then outside of that, you are kind of let's see. Let's
Yeah.
let's go Troy Weaver. So we were both just like, man, 5, that's okay. We really were hoping for a top 3, but at 5, we've got a cluster of players, or I'm sorry, we have 2 or 3 players right at 5 that one of those guys is going to be there. And
Yes.
it's like one of those 3 is fine with us.
Yeah. And I think not all of them, but there's so you look at the guys who are going to be there
Yep.
and you think, okay, maybe Ivy,
Yep.
maybe Sharp, Benedict Matherin, Keegan Murray, like I think those are kind of the 3 guys that you're like, okay, one of them's going to be there. Like one of them will be there. Are you happy with those? And I think that's the question that I want to ask you. Are you happy with one of those guys? And out of those, Ivy, Sharp, Murray, early impressions. Sure, we haven't done a
Mhm.
deep dive into the film yet. I'll admit personally, I've done a little bit of a dive into Murray and Ivy, not Sharp so much. But is there one of those 3 names that really stick out to you as like, hey, this dude could be a stud for years to come?
You and I have liked Ivy, and we really like his upside just
Yes.
because of what he could do in the NBA. It just seems like, man, like he can get to the basket, super
Yep.
athletic, can shoot a little bit, and his decision making can be better, but it's not terrible. But Sharp, it's like, man, number one recruiting class, number one is recruiting class, 5-star. Everybody's just like, let's book it with this guy.
Yes.
Never plays in college. So you're like, dude. So that's another guy where you're like, what if that's, and I'm not saying this, but like, what if that's Kobe Bryant and he didn't, Kobe Bryant, you know what I'm saying? Like now
I'm
you're
glad you
like,
said it.
dude.
Like
So
I don't think he is, but I'm glad you said it because that's the name that pops in your mind where you're just like, dude is a stud.
yeah, and I just want to be like, so either, and that's what you and I keep talking about, either somebody takes him before 5 and that
Yes,
lets
like the Kings.
somebody Ivy drop to us, or we take him. And that's where you and I are really excited about diving in more is like, what if Sharp is really good? That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
What
But
is he?
yeah, what is
Yeah.
he? So
And I think too, when you look at a guy like Jaden Ivey, I think the best pro comp for him is probably somebody like a Victor Oladipo.
yeah.
And Victor Oladipo pre-injury, I'm going to take that guy. Like I'm going to take that guy all day, even though I don't like Indiana. Like because he was a good NBA player. He
Yes.
really is. He's
And
he's a good NBA player, and I think when you look at a guy like Keegan Murray, he just produces. He
mm,
produces all day. And when I see Keegan Murray, this is not a player comparison. I want to be really clear on this, but there's a lot of parallels to me with Jason Tatum. And when Jason Tatum was coming out, they're like, yeah, he has a high floor, but he has a low ceiling. And Jason Tatum's like, screw that. Like, are you seeing what he's doing in the playoffs right now? He's basically like Kevin Durant, hold my beer, right?
oh,
And then Giannis, hold my beer, and he's just like carrying the Celtics. So don't get me wrong, Brown is too, but like and other things. Horford's playing great, but he's one of those guys where it's like, no, high floor doesn't mean low ceiling. It just means that they click at different times. And yes, he's a little bit older, but it clearly clicked for him. He's shown the ability to protect the rim. He's shown the ability to pass. He can shoot. He can drive. He can play in the post. Like he can do a lot of things. And I don't want people to shy away on realizing like he's a really good player. Just because he's not as fancy as some of the other guys in the top doesn't mean, I mean, he could end up being a pro for the longest and most consistent out of all these guys in this draft.
Yeah, and that's that production versus upside. You're
Yeah.
trying to balance that. It's incredibly hard in the NBA. You know,
Mhm.
like I feel like in football, you have an idea. If you can produce, you can play pretty much
Yeah.
in. But yeah, you could be Jimmer Fredette in college, and you're putting up numbers. It's just not going to translate to the NBA.
Yeah.
But with Keegan Murray, he just produces, and you and I have the talk on our live about, are we going, what we really want and need is a superstar, and there's
Yeah.
we know there's two, possibly three,
Mhm.
possibly, and then after that it's like, are we looking for that superstar, or are we just going to happy with like a nice solid NBA player? We feel like we're at that point in our rebuild, and just as a franchise we need one more superstar, and hopefully we
Yeah.
can, that's what
Or
we're
one more
looking.
star, you know? I mean,
Exactly.
like,
Great point. Star. We're not going to draft LeBron, Kobe,
yeah.
Giannis. I don't think.
Like,
But
and I think too, like, and the only reason I say star is because you look at the Boston Celtics,
yep.
right? Jason Tatum is becoming a superstar. Like he absolutely is. Jaylen Brown is a star.
Hmm.
And they have gone through the Nets and the Bucks, and it's working just fine for them so far. So I look at something like that, and same with the Miami Heat, right? You have Jimmy Butler. You could classify him as a superstar. I think people are a little mixed on that, but then Kyle Lowry, Bam Adebayo, they're all-star caliber players. Like
Yep.
that's just what they are. So, you look at those are the kind of things where you're like, yeah, we just need a lot of good guys to throw around Cade Cunningham, and you hope that one of them pops to become a clear number 2 on this team. And I think with the 5th pick, we can get that guy. It's just,
Because,
do we have faith in Troy Weaver to find who it is?
well, I think you just said it. We've got the hard part done. The hardest part is some cap flexibility, a good,
And to
decent
get
draft
your
pick.
alpha.
But yeah, the hardest part is, can you find that where we believe Cade is a future superstar? We have
Yeah.
that, and then you can build around it a lot easier than, yeah, trying to get a bunch of really good guys. That's hard to do. You just need one stud, and then we can trust Troy to get it built around.
Yeah. And I went to the Pistons Celtics game this year, one of the ones at the Palace, and watching Cade and Tatum, like it's obvious that Tatum's a stud, and you're like, Cade's there. Like, and he's going to be there. So we have him. The question is, can we get another star with him in this draft, or even through free agency, or both? When you have 30 million to spend and you have a number 5 draft pick and the possibility of trading Jeremy Grant for like the 7th pick with Portland, okay, like now we're starting to think, or you keep Jeremy Grant and I mean, we could, there's a realm, and I'll do another video on this. There is a world where this team is a honest to goodness contending team next year in the East. If you
Well,
pick up Aiton, you keep Grant, you keep Cade, obviously, and then you draft Jaden Ivey or a Keegan Murray, and all of a sudden you're like, could we compete now?
yeah. In
Like,
in we're not I think if Troy Weaver does a lot of moves, it doesn't make it better than if he doesn't do a lot of moves. You know what I mean? Like
right.
we so love the transaction, but it's like we could have a somewhat boring offseason and still be like really good, where we, hey, draft Ivy at 7, we pick up a
5.
free agent. Yeah. And so all of a sudden it's like, that's not bad. And we
Yeah.
didn't do a lot of trades. We didn't do a lot of maneuvering, you know? So it's like, there's so many things, but I hope we do some funky stuff.
Stuff.
Get
You
some
wanna do some
stuff.
funk?
Dude, give me
And
something. I
but
love it.
you are
Oh,
right, we could just keep Grant and be just fine,
yeah. Keep Grant.
and then
Eight.
you draft, like, Benedict Mathurin. right?
Yep.
And then you go out and get a Jalen Brunson. Like, I mean, there's so many ways we can do it. And let's put it this way. We're already at 10 minutes at this video. There's a lot for us to talk about in the
Yes.
next month before the draft. There
And
just is.
that's right. And so this is our first video where we're just saying, hey, we got the 5th pick. We still believe there's a ton that we can do. So
Yep.
we're in good shape. It'll be fun to break it down this offseason. So make sure you subscribe. If you're not subscribed, we do videos on the Pistons and the Lions. And we just if you subscribe, just means you get our latest videos.
Yep.
So subscribe. And
Get it.
with that, we'll see you on the next one.
See ya.
Yeah.